this is going to be a little different than our normal webinars that we do in the series, and then it's sort of an overview. And what we're hoping here is you can go through this one and get a pretty good idea of all the things that are in the product, and then keep an eye on the webinar invitation list and come back to those parts that are of interest for a little more of a deep dive. So we're going to go ahead and kind of go into this. Those of you that don't know, we're certainly not a household name. We understand that, but we're not the new kids on the block either. We've been around for a long time. Started in 1982 working on this product and been putting really nice features into it ever since. We have a huge installed base, and we've moved through the years as a small provider for a branch office voicemail into one of the dominant players in the enterprise market. We actually are kind of a typical software company. We have a couple of offices scattered around the world. We do business primarily through a dealer channel with a few OEM relationships as well. And so our product is out there. It's just not necessarily recognized. It sits back in that server room doing its job quietly, and as a result, we have to kind of make a little noise about our product every now and then just so people know what it is. We are recognized within the industry as a best-of-breed provider, and you can talk to us later if you want. We'll give you all the Gartner reports and all the things like that talk about it. But today, we're going to talk about the product itself, kind of going through the categories. If you look at being in the space we're in, it's kind of a challenge. Communications in general has become much more challenging because of the types of communications that need to be done in a typical business or enterprise. The individual side is a challenge with mobility. I think everybody probably on this call knows about the challenges of bring your own device and mobile security and all the rest of that, and that's a fast-moving market. A lot of time and money goes in to keeping on top of that in terms of from any software company that provides anything in that space. But the other side of that slide, the businesses, the kind of generic call processing within the businesses is also going through the UC revolution. And it's all about connectivity, reliability, and there are challenges there. And just in the last few years, the whole sort of informal work group collaboration piece has become very important. Because people are working different. They're working in groups. They're working in groups that are spread across the geographies that the company covers. There are challenges in that area as well. So we have to do something in every one of these areas to make sure our product, when we take it into your enterprise, fits all your needs. And then at another level, we also have to be covering, first of all, current needs. A lot of you, if your prospective customers are looking at replacing a legacy voicemail, and you need to understand, what you're getting in terms of replacing what you already have. That's always an important piece. But at the same time, you don't want to be buying something that won't move forward with you. So that provide a bridge into the future piece is extremely important. So as we design the solutions and the product architecture, we have to be looking at both of those. And then one of our jobs is to be looking out even a little further. We need to kind of understand where UC is going so that as these new solutions become extremely useful within an environment, we're ready to go ahead and deploy them out to our customers. So there's a lot of things we have to do to keep on top of our market space. We're very lucky that we have a platform that's just perfect for UC. Our history, if you went back into it, we were founded by some people from a data group, and we have the traditional three-tier data type of architecture, which lets us be much more competitive in how we bring things to market and how we fit into the customer environment. We are recognized as the most interoperable product out there. Even our competitors will give us that one without any argument. It has to do with the way we've built our business. We're not owned by a switch vendor. We're not owned by a router company. We really believe our solutions need to work out in any office that we happen to walk into. So as a result, we have the richest set of call control and PBX integrations, the widest set of email and groupware connectivity, and the best set of custom development tools. So we're very comfortable in saying we can walk into your environment and we can not have any kind of problem at all matching what you have, but also when you buy our solutions, you know that you can move forward in any direction you want and take our solution along with you. So there's no risk. It's a very future-proof kind of solution. So we're going to kind of look at some of these in categories, and the voice category for us is the traditional category. This is the sort of call processing voicemail functionality. That's the core of what most people start with looking at in our product. And if you want to go on to the next slide. If you look at voicemail itself, that's where we started. We have over 3 decades in bringing solutions in that market space. We still have all the legacy features we put in the product years ago, so it's kind of an interesting process for us when people are replacing a legacy voicemail. Some of them are very concerned about some of their features, and we just are very comfortable saying whatever it is you have in that product, we have in ours. But along with that, we've been positioning the product to make that transition over to our product as smooth as possible. So not only do we have all the features, but we have a great set of other tools like alternate telephone user interfaces that exactly mimic the keystrokes for all the message processing that gets done. So if you're coming across from an Octel, an ARIA 250, you can bring our product in, you can turn that user interface on, and your users are immediately comfortable. Really minimizes the disruption to the business. So on the next slide, same for voicemail and call processing holds true. We've been putting these features in for a lot of years. It's amazing how many times we go out to a customer who says, yeah, we don't really do much call processing anymore through our voicemail system. And when the process of putting the system in goes along, they actually find out there's a lot of little legacy apps that are still sort of woven into the business process, and they're using it. So it's just good to know we have all of those functions. But at the same time, within call processing, we also have speech-enabled everything. And we're not like most of the competition where they're getting out there with their version 1 and 2 speech automated attendance. Our product's been on the market for 15 years with a speech interface. So you can understand, I think, when I say it's the most robust, well-developed, and intuitive speech application out there. And the world is really ready for speech. Probably just in the last 5 years, people have started to prefer a well-built speech interface to the pushing keys and the DTMF piece. So you'll find we have all that functionality as well. And then the next slide. A big part of what we do when we go to talk to customers is have architecture discussions. And these may be about functionality, about resiliency, etc. We've built our product with the recognition that every customer we walk into has a complex environment. It's just the way companies have grown. So we have a product that starts out at a very simple level. We've actually, we can sell you a product and the technician can walk in with a single 2U rack server and put it in your rack, put our one install DVD in, and install every single feature we have. We don't believe in requiring additional servers for features. We didn't buy other things and bolt them onto this system. This is all grown within this one application suite. But at the same time, there are reasons for multiple servers. So when we start talking about scalability, resiliency, geo-redundancy, those kind of things, we have the most flexible feature set out there. We're going to be able to match whatever environment you're either in or looking to move to. So from the architecture point of view, because our product, once again, has been under development for 30 years, and most of the competition's products are in the 3 to 5 year old range, we have some real advantages in terms of what we've been able to put into the product. Next slide. We leave the kind of the generic voicemail category, and that's an important category for us. But it's not the most challenging because we've had a long time to work on that piece. Definitely the most challenging piece today is the mobility side. Mobile workers make it very, very difficult in terms of delivering to them the functionality they need, but maintaining the control the enterprise needs. When we look at mobility and we look at bring your own device and we look at security issues, there are real challenges there. At the same time, there's incredible gains to be had in unified communication in correctly supporting those mobile users. They are quite often revenue generators. They're quite often very important to the business, and they need those mobile tools to be productive in the way that we do business today. Next slide. What we've done for mobility is we've had a number of applications over the years with specific point solutions, but we've made it easier now, I think, by putting a lot of our functionality into one license for the user called an add-on license, AVST Total Office Manager. And this is our license for the true mobile warrior. Now, the way our product goes in, you buy the licenses you need for the employees that need those functionality. We don't believe in making you buy everything for everybody because it just doesn't make sense for a desktop worker to have all the same things that a mobile worker does. So Atom is specifically tuned for mobility. We're taking our unified messaging, our find me, follow me, all of those kind of things, and putting it into one license to make it both easier and less expensive to support those users. So we're going to look at a couple of things that are in the Atom license now. Next slide. So one of the things about Atom that we learned early on, we had a lot of point features, like I said, where you could do things, and if the users would maintain their application, they'd get great value. But of course, as we all know, users aren't real big on doing that. In fact, one of the biggest concerns people have when we talk to them about buying a UC solution is whether their users will actually use it. There's a lot of concern over wasting money. Even though you buy something with the best intent, if your users can't take advantage of it, you're really not gaining what you're hoping to gain. So what we figured out a few years ago is the trick is to not involve the user, not require them to do very much. And we do this using context. What context means is we'll use other things within your enterprise to help our product better route calls and better take messages. We figured out a long time ago, as good as we are at taking messages, in most cases, people would rather connect that call the first time than have it go to voicemail. I mean, from a productivity and customer satisfaction point of view, that's pretty obvious. So we spend a lot of our time figuring out how can we connect those calls. And one of the things we can do is use that other enterprise information to more effectively do that. So in this case, this slide is telling us that Adam tells others when you're away. And what that means is when a call comes into our system and they're looking for you, we can go out and do things like read your calendar and read your instant messaging status to better handle that call. Next slide. So as an example, we can read the user's calendar. A call comes in, it's for you, and the system, rather than just say, okay, let's transfer the call out to that person, it can go in and it notices, in this case, Robert Johnson's in a meeting. So on the fly, it builds a greeting that tells the caller that Robert Johnson's in a meeting, and he'll be back at 11. So from the caller's point of view, that's a much better process than, hi, this is Robert, please leave me a message. I mean, that's a very unrewarding process. This is much better. The user has information they can have presented to the caller, and the caller has information they can use to make better decisions. And we can do the same kind of thing by reading the link presence as well. So this is what we mean by context. Next slide. Another great piece of context from us is using our mobile client on the user's mobile phone to actually let them define recognizable locations, and then from that we'll build rules on how to handle the calls when they're at those locations. So as an example here, we can go in and the user can build an office location, and they do that by going to their mobile phone with our mobile app, and it actually goes out to the network, to the mobile network, and says, recognize where I am now and store that location. Later on, when a call comes in, the system will say, is he at that location? In this case, is he in the office? If the answer comes back no, well, we certainly don't want to bother ringing his desk phone, so we'll go on to the next step, which might be ringing his mobile phone. So by the time we built maybe a location for home and a location for work, and then we have a third location, a de facto location that's called other, if you're not at home or at work, we now can much more effectively route incoming calls. And this is the kind of productivity boost we talk about. This is the kind of things that we do that day in and day out make your users much more productive. And the trick with this one is the user doesn't have to do anything. Once it's programmed, it just happens. Their calls follow them around during the day, and everything works much better, and the user doesn't really have to take any effort to maintain it. Next slide. So we do have two mobile clients. We have one for iOS or Apple devices, one for Android devices. They're native, meaning you go get them from the App Store. You go to iTunes, you go to Google Play, you download them, and they are full of features. Now, a lot of the features are what you'd expect from anybody's UC mobile phone. We can place and receive calls. We can get to the messages that are stored on the CXE system. We have mobile number protection for outgoing calls. It's just the kind of tool you'd expect. But at the same time, because we've been at this a little longer than most people, we've also come up with some interesting different types of applications supported by the mobile phone. We've just talked about one of them, the mobile location piece, very powerful tool for routing calls. And then if we go to the next slide, one of the things we noticed really early on is one of the problems with phone calls is they're real time, as we all know. So if you take the example of somebody that spends most of their day in meeting, they go to the meeting, they turn their phone off, but that same device, they're sitting there monitoring or triaging their incoming email. We all know that there are times when we have to know what's going on, but you really can't answer every phone call in a meeting and say, oh yeah, sorry, I can't talk to you. So one of the things we've added in the mobile device is a visual call screening. So when a call comes in and I'm in a meeting, I get a little pop-up, and it tells me who's calling. And it'll tell me as long as they're in my contacts or if they're another member of my system. And based on that, I can make the decision whether that call is more or less important than what I'm doing in the meeting. And I can step out, and I can say, take call, and then just step into the hall. The call's ringing on my mobile phone. I can hit a button, and it'll be transferred to my desk. I can walk over to my desk and answer it. Or I can actually hit a button and record an announcement. Hi, John, listen, I'm in a meeting, I'm going to call you back when I get out. Now, that's kind of disruptive, so in many cases, that's not ideal for meetings. But that last screen on the right shows we also have silent call acknowledge, where I can look down, see that's John, I do need to talk with John, I hit a button, and then I go back to the meeting. And John hears, your butler was unable to take your call, but we'll call you back in 1 hour. So the ability to silently triage calls. Once again, that's the kind of productivity advantage we add that's really unique to our product. The next slide. Unified messaging, that's actually one of the areas we're recognized within the industry as the leader. If you read the Gartner Group, and they talk about unified messaging, and at some point they'll say the best of breed solution is the AVST CSD. We've been in the market the longest, etc. One of the reasons we do so well has to do with how long we've been doing it. We had the first unified messaging out years ago. But during that course of time, what we've learned is what customers need. There are certainly features. It's easy to talk about features. It's easy to understand you need to do unified messaging on all the kinds of devices, etc. But one of the things that's a little more complex actually is the message store. Where do you want those messages stored? And that's an issue that's got nothing to do with functionality and everything to do with legal implications. So when we start talking about HIPAA and FERPA in higher ed and Sarbanes-Oxley implications, people have concerns about compliance and confidentiality of messages, which basically means some people don't want to put them in the email. So we have a whole range of unified messaging applications that allow you to not put those messages in email. We can put them in email, or we can leave them on our server and you can get to them from an email client, or we can leave them on our server and you can get to them from our web client, you can get to them from our mobile client. We have all those bases covered. And it's a per-user choice. Because within an organization, some people need something, and another group of people need something totally different. So that flexibility is what we've gained from being in the unified messaging space for so long. If you're looking at unified messaging, you most certainly should be looking at this product. Next slide. One of the things that's also bundled into Atom is the speech user interface. We talked about speech automated attendant, but we also have a very powerful speech user interface. Again, about 15 years old, by far the most robust and intuitive product out there. And I actually probably haven't used a DTMF key inside my interface in 5 or 6 years because our speech interface just works so well. As a typical example, I climb in my car in the morning, I head to work. And as a side note, when I drive out of my driveway, since I have the mobile client, the system actually knows that I can take calls on my mobile phone now. I call in anyway and says, hello, Butler, what would you like to do? And I say, what are my appointments for today? And it reads my calendar. I say, get me messages, and it reads me my emails, reads my voicemail, tells me if I have any faxes. Perhaps there's a message in there that I have to respond to by creating an appointment, so I can say, create a new meeting Friday at 10 o'clock for 2 hours. Then I go back and listen to another message, and perhaps that's an email message from one of my customers. While I'm listening to the email, if they're in my contacts, I can actually say, call back and place an outgoing call to discuss that subject. So it's a true virtual desktop. Once again, the kind of productivity boost you give to mobile users really depends on these kinds of technologies having been deployed, and it really helps to have 15 years to do it. Next slide. Business process is the category that we use to talk about custom solutions. So like I said, we've been doing this for 30 years, and it never fails to surprise me that I can go to meet with a new customer, and they will ask me for something I have never heard requested before. And it's got to do with the complexity of business and all the different ways people are trying to handle and make available and serve up to their public information and processes having to do with their business. So we can't put everything that everybody wants into the product. There are things that are so unique that if we took all the time to put that in the product, it would just be kind of only used by that one customer and not worth it. That's not to say that based on customer feedback, we don't add new things all the time, because we do, but there'll be things that are custom. And I'm going to give you an example in the next slide of one. Go to the next slide. This is an application we wrote using our business process toolkits, our custom toolkit. And this started out as an application for one customer who basically said, and it was a medical clinic, they said, we have 8 offices, and every day we have somebody have to get on the phone and call 200 people from that office to confirm the next day's appointment. And we know for a fact if we do that, the rate of attendance shows up, and the rescheduling is much simpler, et cetera. So we're doing that with human resources now. and we'd really like to have a way to automate that. So we built an app. The app was so successful, we actually packaged it, and it's a custom app, but you can buy it as part of our system now. And it makes outbound calls. It's an outbound call campaign app. And the way this works is every feature we have in CX can be accessed by these custom development tools. So we can answer incoming calls, we can make outgoing calls, we can access the message database, we can play audio, we can record messages. So we have everything in this toolkit needed to build custom solutions that involve communication. So if you go to the next slide, this is just a list of things in the last 2 years that our professional services group has built using the toolkit. These are the more typical information access kind of applications, traditionally called IVR, interactive voice response. But these are the ones we've written. Because of the way the toolkits are deployed, you can write your own application. So there are hundreds more that we don't ever really even know about. We talk to the customer about the toolkit. We have a couple of usually webinars where we show them how the toolkit works. They buy the toolkit, and they're off and basically writing their own apps. So just keep in mind, if you have some unique solutions that would be very beneficial, but people keep telling you, no, nobody's going to do that, you might want to talk with us, because anything having to do with the kind of capabilities our system has is available as you buy a CXE system. In the next slide. Now this one's interesting. Collaboration is a very popular word in the UC space. In fact, a lot of people try to change unified communications into collaboration. But they're really kind of a different thing. But the kind of the concept here is, whereas 10, 15 years ago, 10 of us on a project, we would get in the meeting room every morning at 9, and we'd have a status meeting, and we'd throw everything up on the board, and we'd make the decisions, and then we'd go off on our own way and work on a project. And it just doesn't really happen that way as much because of the fact that some of our workers stay at home. Some of these projects now are spread across wide geographies. So collaboration has become something that we need tools for. We need to be able to do that kind of functionality. And there are some pieces of this that we don't touch. But there are some pieces that are kind of around our core processes that make us a natural player there. If we go to the next slide, we'll kind of look at where we step into this. So when you want to distribute calls among people that are working in a group of some kind, you start with the PBX can do that. Your phone system has HUD groups. Very simple, but they work fine, and a lot of times that's exactly what you need. On the other side, for contact centers, if you have a more complex environment where you have lots of people with the same skill set doing the same task, and you're pushing a large number of calls through, you're going to put a contact center, an ACD system in, because not only can it manage that process, but it can give you the kind of reports you need to make sure everything's working well, and that granular level of control is something that's very important. But right in the middle between those two, we have kind of smaller informal work groups that really aren't correctly serviced by either of those solutions. So recently we brought back one of the apps we used to be very popular. It disappeared for a few years, and now it's back as TeamQ. And TeamQ is an informal work group application. We're going to kind of spend a little bit of time on this one because it is new, and almost everyone we present this to has some need for this in their enterprise. If you go to the next slide, we look at TeamQ in terms of what it is. We call it an informal work group or an informal call center. And this is targeted at small work groups. So maximum of 25 people can be in any one group. We can have multiple groups on the system, no problem. But this has kind of a unique spin to it. While we can do true ACD, in other words, agent gets off a call, we push the next call to them, that's not really the strength of this. The strength of this application is a pull model. And the pull model, basically, is something that comes from the agents having a different skill set and a different kind of need for control and call. So once again, if we go to that traditional call center, everybody handles the same kind of calls. That's something ideally set up, just push that next call to and get that productivity up. But now if we look at something where the agents have differing skill sets, but they're still in the same group, and I typically talk about an IT help desk, because that's an easy one for people to understand. Almost every company has a little IT help desk, 10 people, and they don't all have the same skill set. So today maybe you call them and it's a hunt group on a phone, and Bob picks up the phone and you say, yeah, I need help with my internet connection, it's down. And maybe Bob's the guy that does that, or maybe Bob says, okay, hold on, puts you on hold, hollers across the cubicle to Mike, and Mike's on the phone, he can't take a call, so he talks to Sue that's on the other cubicle, and Sue goes ahead and takes the call. That's a very typical process for those informal work groups. But there's a better way to do that, and we do that by letting the agents take the calls by pulling them off of the screen. So if we go to the next slide, this is kind of the architecture. So that TeamQ box, that's actually the CXE system with the TeamQ application running on it. Once again, there's no extra server. This is simply leveraging the things that are already on the CXE system. And we have agents that log into the applications for this, and then we have a connection to your phone system. We don't care what that phone system is. This can be any phone system with which we integrate, which is pretty much everything on the market. And then you notice there's a little thing in the middle that says no CPI. The great thing about this app is it works with any phone system without any requirements on the phone system side. Now, a lot of these call center applications require some sort of CPI connection, and that can add $50,000, $100,000 to the deal, and it's very complex, and the programming's very expensive, and we found a way to get around that. So in our architecture, basically, you buy the licenses, we program it up, you don't have to do anything with your phone system at all. And that makes it much, much easier. Those agents are logged on using our application. They can be logged on in the building. If you have a VPN, they can be logged on from home. As long as you have a phone number to which we can transfer the call, this can be deployed anywhere you want to do it. So next slide. Now the way this works is a caller calls in, and the caller gets answered, and we run a script. We ask the caller who they are, what do they want. Please enter your employee number. What do you want help with? Windows, your network connection, they press a key. We look at the queue. We say, okay, you're the third caller in queue. Average wait time is 1 minute and 25 seconds. You want to stay in the queue, go into the callback queue, or leave a message. Caller says, well, I'll stay in the queue, and presses the button. And now that line entry appears on that screen you see, and people can see that here's somebody waiting for help on an internet connection. And as an agent, when I finish my current call, I can look down and find the oldest call with a skill set that I can handle, hit that, hit the take call button, it's transferred to me, and I'm able to take that. Besides that pure take a call, if you notice, one of those agents is actually on a call and actually also has a call on hold. So what happened there is somebody called in, they said, yeah, reset your machine and call me back. The agent took another call right in the middle of that second call. That caller called back in. They could see that from the screen. They highlighted that call and they hit the hold button up in the toolbar, and now that's the next call they take. That's a logical thing you need in a group with different skill sets. You not only need to route those calls in such a way that the people that take them have the right skills, but you also, it's very, very handy to be able to make sure something that involves more than one call is all handled by the same agent. So this is what TeamQ does. Next screen. If you look at productivity, we started years ago selling voicemail for productivity, and it's still there, and people still want it. It's kind of a ho-hum subject. Nobody gets too exciid about it till it's not there, and then they get very excited about it. But the concept of productivity involving calls hasn't just sat there stagnant over the years. It's grown. So we started with simple voicemail. We added automated attendant functionality. We added fax capabilities. Mobility is kind of the really big push right now, where everyone that looks at our product has issues and concerns with mobility, and we're able to maybe sell them the mobile clients, add-on licenses, whatever piece they need. The business process piece comes up. As long as you think about it for a second and let us know, we're not going to know what you need that's unique because it's unique. But once you start talking to us about it, we're generally able to help you. And, of course, the collaboration of the TeamQ piece is one of the most popular pieces right now we're having discussions with. This is a unique solution, and almost every customer we start talking with says, what is that? What is that? Oh, yeah. Oh, we could use that. And then somebody else will chime in, oh, yeah, we have that other group where they're doing that. That would work for them, too. And we ended up adding the TeamQ piece on them. I can't give you a number because it's too new, but quite a few of our new systems. So, all right. So next slide.
Okay, and it looks like the next slide is the questions. Neil, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. There are a few questions coming in before we start. If you do have a question that you haven't submitted yet, you may have the panel minimized, so look for the orange arrow in the upper corner, and then you'll find the question box toward the bottom there. Okay, so the first question, Neil, for the mobile app, is it available to all users or just users?
So our licensing is got a couple of options there. The Atom license, I told you, is a package license. The Atom license has a personal assistant license, which is our mobility, find me, follow me license, a unified messaging license, and speech rec resources. So that includes everything. If all you want is the mobile app, then there's a separate and less expensive personal assistant license. You can buy that separately. So we really let you pick and choose. Some of our unified messaging types don't require a license. So some people would go with the free unified messaging but want the mobile app, so they'd get the personal assistant license. Some systems want speech rec, some don't. So we're very flexible. You'd actually have to have kind of an offline conversation with one of us to figure out exactly what your needs are, and then we can give you an idea of how you'd proceed.
Okay, great. Next question: do you offer voice to text?
Yes, email transcription is available. We have a product that either can do that on site, where we'll take the voicemail when it comes in, we'll put it onto an on-site server, they will convert it to text, and then put it into your email. Never has to leave your domain. And that's English only right now. We also have a slightly less expensive Service Bureau version, where we send the voicemail off-site, they transcribe it, puts it in, and that one is also, besides being less expensive, is also available in 7 languages. So it kind of depends on your need, but either way we have it covered.
This one, I think this question came in toward the beginning when you were talking about the interoperability. So is there a limit to the number of PBX integrations on the system?
Oh, see, now you're delving into one of our dirty little secrets. Officially, the story is, on a single call server, we can support up to 3 types of integration. Not 3 systems, 3 types. So I could have 4 VIA communication managers, 3 NEC switches, 2 Cisco switches. That's 3 types. System-wide, we support up to 10 types. So not 10 systems, 10 types. We actually have one customer that has 65 locations tied into a single CXE system. I'm not even sure that's the most complex one. That's the one I know about. And the dirty little secret is, actually none of that's true. There is no limit. We could probably put as many as we wanted on there. But we have to test things. So we've tested up to 3 different types on a call server, up to 10 different types on a system-wide basis. No one's ever come close to needing that many. But if you come to us and say, we have a really big opportunity, but we have 11 types, we're going to have that conversation and it's going to work out good.
Okay, great. So question about the mobile app. So what are the options for BlackBerry or Windows phone users? Is it speech only?
No, there's a bunch of different things we still do. We don't have a native app. So to start with, you're not going to have the location piece and some of that. We do have a small web-based app that can be used on BlackBerries or on Windows mobiles, and it lets you maintain your availability settings. So we have this fancy call routing that knows when to route your calls, but sometimes the user wants to change that. So we have a little web app that will let them do that. If you're pushing your messages using Exchange Active Sync or a BlackBerry Enterprise server out to your mobile devices, you're still going to get your voicemails out there. So that's there. So while we have less functionality, we still do have quite a bit of functionality for both of those types of phones.
Okay. Again, on the mobile app, is it possible to add personalization, customization to call screening, silent acknowledgement?
So not yet. It was actually in our original product description to let users build their own, 10 phrases they might want to use, and then we would use the text-to-speech on our system to read it to the caller. That did not make it in the first pass of the product. It's kind of on our list, but we're waiting to see how many people really push us to do that piece. So if that's something you're interested in, we should probably have a conversation, but it is not there today.
Okay. On the voice transcription, what is the message size limit for in-house transcription? 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
I'm pretty sure it's 3 minutes, but what we also do is include an attachment of the audio of the full message. So you get 3 minutes transcribed, and then you'll get the ability to listen to all of it if you need to.
Okay. I think this one is in the context of TeamQ. Since you mentioned no CTI, what is your interface to the various PBXs? Do they only allow certain external connection interfaces?
So anything that we can connect with, and that varies by PBX, and I'll run through a couple. And these are not in any order of preference, just kind of the order of familiarity. On Avaya Communications Manager, we can integrate using station-side SIP, trunk-side SIP direct, session manager SIP, station-side emulation, E1 QSIG, T1 with in-band, analog with in-band, any of those. Anything we integrate with automatically supports TeamQ. Now you move to another switch, and maybe we'd have a different set of those. Go to an older Avaya Blue, a CS1000, let's say. We would do station-side emulation. We would do trunk-side SIP. We would do trunk-side SIP through Session Manager. Same thing. If we have an integration, then the TeamQ piece will be supported.
Okay. Next one, we have several doctors' offices that want to control their own ACD's time-of-day call routing. Is that possible?
So anytime somebody says ACD, I get a little nervous because while we do talk about TeamQ as being kind of a small ACD, it's not actually necessarily going to stand up to what you want for ACD. In terms of if you're talking about using TeamQ, then yes, the time-of-day routing is not going to be a problem at all. If you're talking about a front-end call processor that during different times of the day transfers calls into the telephone system ACD, then we're completely flexible there as well. I told you there's that one customer that has 65 sites, and those are across 3 time zones. And even within some of their large enterprise sites, they have 4 or 5 groups with different operating hours. And none of that's a challenge for us. We can have an unlimited number of different answer modes. If we can identify an incoming call based on a DNIS number, an ANI number, something, then we can route that call different times of the day.
Okay. Again, with TeamQ, another one. Is it a per-seat license? Do I have to buy a license for each seat?
At this point, just going back to
the way TeamQ works is there's an initial license. TeamQ, by the way, was also written with our toolkit, our business development toolkit that we talked about. So there's an initial license to have that enabled on the system. And then there's a per agent and a per supervisor license on top of that. And those are not concurrent use. Those are enablement license. In other words, when I go into a user's mailbox and says, this person can be in TeamQ, that license is now tied up because it's tied to that mailbox, whether they're using it or not. But if you have a concern about licenses, TeamQ licenses are ridiculously inexpensive. I believe the lowest quantity that you can buy them in, the individual manufacturer's suggested list price is $25 a seat. So that's the other reason this is so popular. Expense or cost won't be an issue here. Believe me. If this does what you want, you will not have a problem with the price.
Okay, and also Neil mentioned early on, so we have several webinars that delve deeper into some of these topics, and we did actually a TeamQ webinar, I think, last week or the week before. So I'll go ahead and make the recording of that available to you all when we send out the slides in case you'd like to review some more detail on that. We'll also, of course, have our internal team follow up with each of you that had questions as well. Another question, Neil, what sort of call center reports are available? Do you have any real-time displays for the call center traffic?
So, as I said, we just brought this one back out, and it's coming out a little light. On the reporting side, we have 2 logs, a call log and an agent log, that we're logging everything in, and there's a client that the supervisor has where they can view them. But I'm going to be honest with you, they're not all that useful in that format. It's very easy to export them into a common limited file, open up Excel, run a quick macro, and get what you want. But we're light on the report side. Now, that's not something we're happy with, and the next version of software will have a full reporting package in it. We're furiously working on it. It took a little longer than we thought. We didn't want to hold the whole product back. So you'll see that come in the next version. In terms of a reader board, we have a toolkit that lets us connect to those reader boards, but it's going to be sort of a custom engagement where you would say, I have this kind of reader board I want to use, and we would work with that company with their APIs and build you something for that. Now, to give you kind of an idea here, there's things we do with our toolkit, and people say, oh, custom development is going to be so expensive. If you buy TeamQ and you're going to prompt an employee to enter their employee number, rather than show the employee number on the screen, well, we can go do a data zip somewhere and go get your name and put the name on the screen instead. And we offer that as a package programming price, where, and I think it's, once again, I think the list price on that is $1,600. We like that custom code to bring that in. So our programming prices are very, very low as we enable these type of things. So for a reader board, if that's something you really want, you're going to be able to get that at a price you're going to be perfectly satisfied with.
Okay. Next question. With so many types of licenses, what features come with a standard voicemail license? I don't know if you want to maybe take this one offline.
Well, I'll give you a kind of a highlight, and then we actually have a document, too, that offline we can send to people. So we basically charge Call Express by the port. So if you need a 48-port system, we tell you 48 ports. And if that's all you paid for was 48 ports, you get all the voicemail, you get all that, the flexible incoming routing time of day type of thing. You get the ability to get to your messages from our free web client. So there's one type of unified messaging bundled in. You get all the menus, all of that. What wouldn't be included would be the mobile client, the personal assistant, any speech recognition, those types of pieces. So if you think of a traditional voicemail, all that's free, plus the web client we have is free, which gives you one type of everything else tends to be additional.
Okay, great. And like I said, we'll definitely have someone follow up with a little more detail on that one. Next question, would it be possible to import the database of our current voicemail system, mailboxes, voice menus, messages, etc., into a new AVST system, or would the new AVST database have to be configured from scratch?
It's kind of a mix. Almost every voicemail I know of can export the user database and probably the distribution of this database into a text file, and we can manipulate that text file and do the import to create everything. That's a pretty standard process for either our dealers who would be doing that or our professional services who would be doing that. Now, the call processors, the menu pieces, can't be imported because the way we do it is just different than the way anybody else does it. And that's true going from any system at all. So those have to tend to be printed out and then input manually. And that can be time-consuming if you have lots and lots of menus. The messages, recording names, and greeting, we can import those without any problem at all. We have a utility that does that. Getting them off your older system is kind of problematic. There's no system that I know of that has an export feature that does that, except ours. But you can hire third-party companies to extract those messages, put them onto a drive, and we can import them. But that's a very expensive process to get them exported. If you're interested, we'll gladly give you some kind of guideline prices and put you in touch with people. And if you want to do that, then from our point of view, importing is very simple to do. I always end these by thanking everybody for coming to me. This is what Ann and I have blocked out on our calendar to do today. You guys have to, break it out of your normal day to do this. I'm very gratified people show up. If these aren't giving you the information you want, you need to let us know that. We'll gladly change them. And as Ann said, there's a wide range of these already pre-recorded. Plus, we do one of these almost every week, and we'd be happy to hear from you about every subject that you might like us to cover. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you on another webinar, hopefully pretty soon. Bye-bye.